All right, we are back. I know you guys are wondering, like, what's going on with the guys at Combat Sports Talk? Well, the fact is that we have been trying to get together video, bring all the guys, not just me and KC and John, but also have George and all different kinds of fighters that are local in our area. We're going to try to bring all of that to you with this revamped version of Combat Sports Talk. So, without further ado, let's get in. All right, welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is George G-Money Stallworth. There he is. He's all lit up, wearing his Combat Sports Talk beanie. Look, man, we all branded up because we on camera now.
I thought you knew. What's up, Combat Sports World Nation?
All right, so I bet everybody's wondering, like, where's KC? Well, KC had like a business meeting, and he's trying to be all professional. And John, since today is Veterans Day, shout out to John Keys. You know, he was in the Army, and he's got a dinner date, whatever he's got going on, celebrating Veterans Day. So shout out to him.
You know, I saw a picture of KC training. I think he's trying to get back in shape to fight you again, bro.
Man, KC has been chomping at the bit to fight me. And I'm like, listen, you're training out at Factory X. You're training with some true killers. Like, I'm sitting here just doing spoon curls. You know what I'm saying right here? Like, I am not in shape. I am not ready. To quote the great Debo, you want some of this, old man? My answer, no. So
I get it.
So, man, like, it's been a long time coming. We have wanted to do video. We wanted to be committed to video. I invested in video, and it never worked. But I think we've got a solution now, and I am excited to kind of cross over into this new era of Combat Sports Talk on video. What do you think?
Dude, I'm just excited. I can actually see you now doing a podcast. It's a lot of great things taking place, and I'm really excited for where this is going, man.
All right.
I mean, just think about over the past few months. You know, we just did a live cast and an actual show. We got another one coming up on December 7th.
Dominion.
The podcast, the live shows we've been doing over at Austin Avenue have been going great. Yeah. People are recognizing us. I mean, I think Combat Sports Talk is really blowing up, man.
Well, you know, what I got to say is, you know, credit to you and to John and to KC for sticking with it, sticking with me, and, you know, talking about it to all your friends, and we're finally starting to get that recognition. You know, the big thing is that now we're starting to expand. You being, you know, now a Muay Thai coach, I'm getting trained and learning a little bit more about Muay Thai, and so maybe next thing you know, we'll be able to add another dimension. We'll not be so MMA centric.
It is what it is, man. MMA is mixed martial arts, so all of these things together. We just, you know, typically we try to focus on the MMA fights, and we don't think of it in terms of breaking down. Like, hey, let me go watch a jiu-jitsu match, or let me go see a Muay Thai fight, or better yet, let me go just check out a wrestling event. You know, those are things we should really be looking into, man, because many of the fighters in MMA come out of individual sports.
Correct.
So.
All right. Well, hey, you know, one of the things that I want to talk about, you know, we just had a fight recently, and it was headlined by, you know, one of my favorite fighters to actually, whose name to pronounce is Zabit Magomedsharipov versus Calvin Kattar. You know, that fight taking place in Russia. As the main event, Magomedsharipov came away with the unanimous decision, but it was an excellent technical fight, earning a $50,000 fight of the night bonus. In the co-main event, Alexander Volkov defeated Greg Hardy via unanimous decision. You know, that's the one thing about Alexander Volkov. He is very much a, you know, kickboxer, a very technical fighter, whereas Greg Hardy is, you know, he likes to call himself the ultimate athlete. He's just still very raw. He's not ready for someone who knows how to use distance, can use his hands and his feet like Volkov can.
There are levels to this fight game, man. And even within the different arts of MMA, there's levels again. There's levels in striking, there's levels in jiu-jitsu, there's levels in wrestling, man. I heard someone speak of something the other day I really didn't understand in wrestling. They called it chain wrestling, being able to go from one attack in a wrestling mode to another, to another, to another. And I found out that's what Habib does. He's somewhat of a chain wrestler. So, yeah, to hear Zabit put on a show like that and that they both earned that $50,000 bonus, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I absolutely. And both of them are making their way up that ladder, so I can't wait to see whenever they start fighting, kind of these top tier fighters, so we can see what actually, what they can actually do. This is at 145, so you've got Alexander Volkanovski, you got Max Holloway in there. There's a lot of great fighters. I wish they could say that they had Jose Aldo, but it looks like Jose Aldo is looking to go down to 135 and face the Triple C.
I heard that. I'm somewhat surprised in that because I thought he was having trouble making 145.
That's what I thought too. And as you get older, it becomes harder and harder to make those weights.
Harder.
So I saw a picture of Jose Aldo at 135, and I mean he was shredded. Or at least he was on his way down to 135. So maybe they're working on just trying to get that regimen right, the cutting the weight, to see if they can do it reliably. And because, you miss weight coming down from a higher weight, the UFC is like, hey, we don't think you should fight at this weight. So I can't wait to see what happens there.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, especially considering some of the new changes that some of the commissions are implementing, like California, for instance. You've got a certain percentage of weight you can regain in between a cut. Mm-hmm. So, depending on where he fights it, that might be a problem.
Absolutely. And I actually like this rule. So, I believe you can't gain more than 10% of your weight after you weigh in. If you do, then what happens is California bars you from fighting at that weight anymore. So people like Paulo Costa can't fight at middleweight in California anymore because he gained like 22 pounds between weigh-in and the fight night. So that's a great way to start encouraging fighters to fight at a more natural weight as opposed to cutting so much weight to make these lighter weights and create those mismatches when you rehydrate.
Absolutely, man. Speaking of mismatches and weight, did you see the looks between Gastelum and Darren Till?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a prime example of a mismatch when you look at what's going on there. I know Gastelum actually missed weight. We had Tailgate again, Tailgate Part 2. But still, looking at those, there was a massive size difference, man. I wonder how much Darren Till actually came down from.
I don't know, but he looked like just a giant next to Kelvin Gastelum, and it was really interesting because you and I talked about it. We did a live show which hasn't published yet, just so that you know, but we did a live show talking about the fact that I was confident that a guy who was vying for the 185 title, who effectively dropped Izzy Adesanya and put a big shiner on his eye, that having someone like Darren Till typically moving up a weight, there's a lot of things you've got to get fixed whenever you do it your very first time. Gastelum couldn't get inside. Gastelum didn't really have any offense, didn't have an answer for the much bigger and taller and what appeared to be stronger Darren Till. I was flabbergasted.
I almost felt like Gastelum was having a Tyron Woodley night when he fought Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
Just couldn't get the car started.
Well, that's and that's one thing that you talk a little bit about. Will you talk about fighters who come in warmed up, what you call wet, where they're sweating, versus a fighter who comes in and just, walks to the ring?
Yeah, so absolutely. So what takes place before a fighter actually comes out? They're in the back. And typically they're warming up. That might include pad work. That might include some wrestling, some jiu-jitsu, just some light rolling, just to get people in the function of moving their body. But I think that it takes a lot more than that for you to go out and have a successful event as far as a fighter. You shouldn't just, do your basic warm-up. I believe you should actually get to the point of almost not an exhaustion, but just on the point of where you're breaking a sweat and things are really warmed up, like you've been in it for a minute. I don't want to go out to the ring cold. I definitely don't want to go out to the ring dry. I want to go out to the ring wet, almost steaming, almost where steam is rising up off of me. That way I've gotten past that first level of exhaustion, or, I'm on my second wind almost. I'm a little bit more in the groove, or what some people call the flow state. I'm closer to obtaining that state. When you don't do that, I think you have a harder time getting into the fight, especially guys who are slow to warming up. We've seen it before. You heard in the most recent fight with Jorge versus Diaz. Diaz says, hey, I'm a better fighter in the fourth and fifth round. It takes him for, those 3 or 4 rounds to get warmed up. Mm-hmm. And a lot of fighters find themselves on the short end of the stick because of this. And so I think it's a wise thing to warm up properly in the back. And that doesn't mean just a 15-minute pad session. Mm-hmm. That means really putting your body through the paces so that it's ready for war.
Right. And, another person who's traditionally a slow starter is someone like Cowboy Cerrone, right?
I was thinking the same thing.
We know that Cowboy Cerrone is a person who is an outstanding fighter, but usually he needs to get to that second round before that engine starts coming online and he starts really putting those combos together. And that's usually how, if you can, overwhelm him in the first round, that's a great way to win a fight. And so, to your point, by going ahead and effectively getting that first round out of the way in the back, you come to the ring in round 2, ready for round 2 instead of starting off cold from round number 1.
Absolutely. I've also heard some fighters talk about how the weight on the announcements, such as the buffer factor, can actually cool them down to the point where it affects them. I recently had one fighter talk to me about, in Muay Thai, in some states or some jurisdictions, there's actually a 2-minute break between rounds instead of the 1 minute. And I've had a fighter tell me, he's like, during that 1 minute, man, I'm telling my coach to bring in some pads or something, because after a minute, I need, to warm up again.
Wow. One of the things that I was able to watch was Roxanne, the Happy Warrior Modafferi. She was talking a little bit about how exciting it is to have, Bruce Buffer do the announcement. But because she is so ready to go and she wants to fight, that it's actually something that is like, just another obstacle to getting to the fight. Like, Yes, it's super nice, and yes, I enjoy it. But at the same time, let's get it over with, because I'm ready to fight right now. I may not be ready to fight 2 minutes from now.
2 minutes from now. Absolutely. Or 2 minutes from now, my body is starting to cool off already, as opposed to that, that zone I was in 2 minutes ago.
Right. I mean, that's the amazing thing about the human body, I guess you'd say. When you are in shape, your body now can spin up and get ready real fast, but the recovery starts kicking in and it starts to relax again if you sit down too long. So it could almost be a detriment to have these breaks in the action for some of these fighters.
Absolutely. Very often when I'm in practice or a sparring session or things like that, and while my body's up and running, I have no issues. But the minute I stop and cool off, all of a sudden those aches set in. If there's any injuries, I'm starting to feel those for a second.
Right.
Any inflammation I got going on is kicking up or going to another level. So I'm sure the same thing can and does happen to fighters who come out cold or warm up and then cool down and things like that in the fight.
All right. Well, hey, before we move on, from UFC Moscow, we got to talk about Khabib Nurmagomedov's cousin, Abubakar Nurmagomedov, who was having his debut, and it didn't go so well. I mean, the rule number 1 is always don't bet against the Russians, and you sure as heck don't want to bet against the Russians in Russia. But it did, somebody got to be the one to be the exception. And unfortunately, it was Khabib's cousin, Abubakar. And Conor did not waste any time clowning him. So he had two tweets. One of them said Nurmagomedov tap tap, and the other one said he tapped his forehead. If you tap his forehead, you can punch his forehead. He quit. One quitter exposed. Abubakar Nurmagomedov, forever a failure. What do you think about that?
If you live in a glass house, you should not throw stones, because I remember Conor McTapper being a term tossed around the UFC.
UFC 229. That would happen right before the fight, is him tapping out.
And if I'm not mistaken, didn't Habib make Conor tap too?
He sure did.
Oh, Conor has. So, I started to talk about this in the pre-show. I have begun to really lose a lot of love and loyalty for Conor. It's like he over the past year, 2 years, or whenever the actual decline was the bus incident. I feel like, but slowly I am no longer a fan of this man, and it hurts me to say so. Because I've seen his rise. I know where he came from. I understood what he was going through. I understood what it took to get there. But now that he's been there, I'm just not happy with his behavior. I'm not happy with his antics. He's not someone I would want my children to model themselves after. And I'm disappointed in him, man, more so than anything. I'm sorely disappointed.
Yeah, well, I can echo a lot of your concerns because, and KC will always, call me, a McGregor fanboy because I like Conor on the mic. You give Conor a mic and it's electric. He captivates people. You've got a guy who, up until he started feeling himself, was an outstanding fighter. I mean, granted, I like to talk about the fact that he was given a bit of a yellow brick road to the championship, but he still beat a seemingly unbeatable Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. He came in there and wiped out Eddie Alvarez. And then, he became this larger-than-life thing, and coming in there and winning, earning over $100 million fighting Floyd Mayweather in a fight that effectively didn't touch his MMA career, but enriched him enough to be able to start his own, Proper 12 whiskey business. Like, at that point, it just seems like he doesn't feel like the law applies to him or rules apply to him. And that's
too big for his britches.
Right. And so for me, I wish Conor could humble himself somehow and come back and fight like we know he can. And I wish we could see Conor go back and do those things on the mic that we know he can do without disrespecting someone's religion or their family or, or things like that. Like, be the Conor you were when you came to take over.
Yeah.
But if
absolutely.
This is what life is like when, once you've taken over, maybe you don't need to have the reins anymore. Maybe someone else needs to take over.
The truth, he doesn't have the reins anymore. I mean, he's not a champion in any sense of the word at this point.
Right.
155 is Khabib. 145 is
Max
who right
Holloway.
now? Max Holloway. He doesn't have a BMF belt. I know you're not a fan of those.
I don't like that belt.
There's just nothing that Conor's doing right now in MMA that it really sparks interest. And then he's going after these people who he has no business going after. I mean, like, it's not like Conor's going to go fight Khabib's cousin. Why are you even discussing that? You should be in the gym focused on Khabib, if anybody.
Right. And the fact that, to be honest, he's not even the star anymore.
Right.
With what Israel Adesanya did to Robert Whittaker, it's really Izzy. I mean, you heard me just go on and on about how I did not approve of Israel Adesanya's walkout to Robert Whittaker, the Robert Whittaker fight. But the dude could do choreography, and then
go win a fight.
And then go win a fight in convincing fashion. He finished that fight, and then get on the mic and light it up
against a high level guy.
I mean, but him on the mic is actually really entertaining. You know? So you've got Israel Adesanya kind of stepping into that, what was the Conor McGregor role. You still have John Jones, and now that we've kind of gotten over Picogate, right? Like, we're not talking about picograms anymore. Only the haters kind of do that now. So John Jones is coming back into that full force of the unbeatable, unstoppable John Jones. Darren Till seems like he's starting to get his life together. Who knows? So you've got all these people that are starting to get our attention with Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal. Another one, Jorge Masvidal. People actually are captivated by Jorge.
I would say more so than I feel Izzy is the new Conor. I'm starting to feel like Jorge is the new Conor. Man, his post-fight interview, in the press conference, he comes out suited up, eating pizza, drinking his liquor. I mean, come on, man. He put on a show two times that night.
He did.
2 times.
I was entertained. I mean, it was great. Like just watching him talk and it being so relaxed and carefree. And that's what I liked about him. He wasn't really going after anybody. He was just enjoying the moment. That's the kind of guy I can get behind.
And he was asked about Conor that night as well. And I think he said something to the effect of, is that guy still fighting?
Yeah.
Like Dana White doesn't want that guy to fight me.
Yeah, he does.
He said something to the effect of Dana White said, I'm too much man for him.
Man, it's true, though. I mean, I remember him saying something to the effect they asked him about Conor, and he's like, I don't want to beat up that little man. Because the fact is that Conor is a 155er. I feel pretty confident that Conor at 145, 155, that's probably his sweet spot. Going up to 170 is where you start running into people. You know, he had trouble with Nate Diaz, and you saw what happened to Nate Diaz when Jorge Masvidal got his hands on him. Like,
absolutely. Like
I mean, I have to go on record and say I was going for Nate Diaz. I thought Nate Diaz could get Jorge to the ground. But once Jorge was like, nope, I'm reversing you on the cage, and now I'm going to take you to the ground, and now I'm going to drop bombs on you. Like, I was like, what was it? It was early in the first round. I'm like, oh, no, this is not going to go well. This is bad.
3 rounds of it on top of that.
3 rounds of whooping. Like, we don't want to see that anymore. I mean, Nate does, but we don't. All right, let's go on. You know, one of the things that that we were treated to was the fact that, you know, Derek Lewis at the got to fight Blagoy Ivanov, but he and Greg Hardy, who fought just this past weekend, they started having, you know, a bit of a beef. Of course, you know, just for those of you who are catching up, Greg Hardy was an accused domestic violence person. I
like how you politically correct it. Anybody else would have said Greg Hardy was accused of being a woman beater. Okay. You said domestic violence.
Yeah, accused of domestic violence because, you know, when it did not go to court. You know, the case was thrown out because the witness refused to testify or did not show. So he is not convicted of the alleged domestic violence, but that does not stop Derek Lewis from calling him a woman beater and those things like that. And he continues these attacks. Well, Greg Hardy fired back and said, "Listen, you've been to prison. So I don't know you're the best person to establish what the standard should be." And I'm like, wow, did Greg Hardy come up with that on his own? What?
No, he did not.
What?
No, he did not. Because anyone who knows Derek Lewis and what he went to prison for would automatically rubber stamp him past that. He went to prison for an assault against an alleged member of the Ku Klux Klan. So, I mean, do we need to have that discussion?
No.
Okay, so
I mean, you know, the second, personally for me, the second best thing to punching a Nazi is a Klans guy. I'm sorry.
So, Hardy, I'm sorry. A lot of people think Derek Lewis going to prison for that should actually make him a hero. You're not getting the hero pass for putting your hands on a woman.
Allegedly. All right, so I think that fight's going to happen. They are going to make that fight. They have to. Like, please, UFC, Dana, Sean, come on, guys. You got to put Greg Hardy and Derek Lewis in a cage together. I don't think Greg Hardy's ready just yet, but you got to make that fight happen.
I would like to see Greg get 1 or 2 more fights just to get him closer to being ready for that. I don't think he really wants to smoke with Derek Lewis.
I don't know, but I want to see it.
People don't realize it, but Derek Lewis is a 3-round and a 5-round fighter. If you look at the fights he's been in, most of his finishes come late in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
That means so, and he was fighting hurt back then. So we haven't even seen the best Derek Lewis yet. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think he needs to start adding a little bit of that jits to his game, though.
No
Blagoy was
doubt.
almost had
But
that
I mean,
Kimura on him. What?
no, I remember him waving his finger like, "Nah, I'm good." He put the thumbs up on it. It's like, "I'm good. This is nothing." But I must say, it looked scary when you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
The way that that shoulder was out of place almost, it looked like anybody else would have been tapping. Derek Lewis gave a thumbs up. And next thing you know, he's popping up. So as much as we say he needs jits, I've seen several times when he's been against guys who, hey, this guy's a wrestler, this guy's a jiu-jitsu guy. They put him on his back, and he finds a way to get up. The only person I can really think he's had problems with on the ground was Daniel Cormier.
Well, and who doesn't? I mean, besides
Right.
John Jones.
Are you taking shots?
Hey, man, I'm just calling it like I see it. So, speaking of, are you familiar with the fairy tale, The Three Billy Goats Gruff?
I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar enough with it to even remember what took place in this fairy tale.
Okay, so The Three Billy Goats Gruff is a story about these three billy goats. There was a little billy goat, a medium-sized billy goat, and a big billy goat. And they're crossing this bridge in order to get to a new pasture to chew on the green grass. But living underneath this bridge is a troll. And the troll likes to eat the goats. So the littlest billy goat comes walking across. The troll gets mad because he's crossing the bridge and threatens to eat the little billy goat. And so the little billy goat goes, "Look, I'm just skin and bones. You don't want to eat me. You want to eat my bigger brother that's coming." And so the troll, who's greedy, decides to let the little one go. Second one comes over, same thing happens, and the goat says, "You want to eat my bigger brother who's coming." And so the troll says, "Fine," lets the other one go, and then the big brother comes up and then wrecks the troll, and that's how the story goes. Why am I talking about the Three Billy Goats Gruff? Because Nick Diaz is calling out Jorge Masvidal. He's like, "You know what? That BMF belt is actually mine. You beat up my little brother, but now it's time to face me." The big Billy Goat is speaking.
I kind of do like this fight, but you also have to remember, I think Big Bro Nate has fought at 185, we know for sure.
Yep.
I don't remember him at 170, but I'm sure he's had a fight or two.
He actually fought at 170 and then went up to 185 to fight Anderson Silva. So it's kind of, because remember, Nick Diaz actually fought George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
And he complained because George St. Pierre wrestled him and took him down and ground and pound him for 5 rounds.
I like this fight, but I don't see it going much different than the first Diaz brothers fight.
I'm a believer in Jorge Masvidal. Listen, I went with Nate Diaz. I have to eat crow. Listen, but Nick Diaz is bigger.
And
I mean, they're the same height, but Nick Diaz is bigger. So he
so
might
was
be a
Ben
little
Askren.
stronger. Yes, but see, you can't count Ben Askren.
Really?
I'm sorry.
Ben Askren was undefeated prior to stepping into the cage with Jorge Masvidal. 27-0, one FC champion, Bellator champion. I mean, what do you mean I can't count him?
Well, we didn't actually see a fight. We saw a flying knee. It was a spectacular flying knee, and that was great. But we didn't actually see what would happen when Ben Askren and Jorge Masvidal met in the cage. Like, I have this thing that a fight needs to go for some period of time, let's say longer than the buffer factor, for us to see what happens in this fight. If you get caught in the first minute, we didn't actually see the fight. Like, when
not Jorge's fault that Ben Askren decided to drop his head into an incoming knee and go visit another dimension.
I agree. That is not Jorge's fault, but at the same time, we can't say that we saw Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren. We didn't actually see that fight lasted 5 seconds. We didn't actually see a fight.
How we have some differences of opinion on the outlooks and the ins and outs of fights sometimes. Where, in my opinion, Jorge Masvidal just obliterated this guy, and I no longer even need to see this fight. I have no interest in seeing Jorge versus Ben anymore.
I can't believe you. I can't, because the thing is this. Listen, we didn't actually see a fight. What we saw was
destruction,
a freak accident,
a disaster on the part of
and I feel look, the people watching could be like, it wasn't an accident. He practiced it 48 hours before. There's video of him practicing it. Like, that is a low probability shot. Like, landing a flying knee at the beginning of a fight is it's like shooting a mid-court shot. Yeah, you can make that shot. Stephen Curry makes that shot frequently, but that's a low percentage shot. We didn't actually, we saw a low percentage shot go in, and we're calling it an obliteration that Ben Askren can't hold a candle to Jorge Masvidal. Actually, he probably can. Now, I know that we can all say that Ben Askren is overrated because, I mean, let's look at how his career in the UFC has gone. But at the end of the day, Jorge Masvidal is not, what is it? I think it was something like 20x times buffer factor better than Ben Askren. I don't think that you can look yourself in the mirror and say Jorge Masvidal is that much better. He may be better. He may be even dominatingly better. But he is not a 5-second victory better than Ben Askren. It's just not reality. It just happened that's what happened.
MMA math can be very tricky and funny. I think, if I'm not mistaken, does Jorge have a fight against, or has Jorge had a fight against Damian Maia? Doesn't he have a loss to Maia?
I think he may have.
And Ben Askren was dominating Maia up until he got put to sleep.
Yeah.
MMA math doesn't make sense. You're absolutely right. Styles make fights. And I think the style of fighting that Masvidal has, as opposed to Ben, I don't think we'd see much different in that.
But we would need to see something. We saw one knee thrown, one knee landed, fight over.
Let me ask you this: do you need to see Diaz and Masvidal again?
No.
You're fairly certain that Masvidal would dominate him again?
We saw 3 rounds. We saw lots of examples of what happens when Nate Diaz versus Masvidal. We saw Nate Diaz try to take Masvidal down. It didn't work. We saw him try to grapple against the fence. It got reversed. We saw Masvidal on top and almost get knee barred and know what to do to get out of the knee bar. We saw how much damage that Masvidal did to Nate Diaz whenever he threw punches, and Nate Diaz was hitting him on the chin, and Jorge Masvidal was walking through it smiling. Not the kind of, haha, you hit me good, faking off that it didn't hurt. No, it literally did not hurt Masvidal to get punched by Nate Diaz. He walked away from that 3-round fight with a little mouse under the eye, and that is it. So no, we don't, huh?
And then was drinking tequila and eating pizza.
Right. So we don't need to see that fight again, because we saw Nate Diaz throw his best at Jorge Masvidal, and Masvidal walk right through it. We did not see anything from Ben Askren. And so because of that, yes, it's a win, and I don't want to take it from Jorge Masvidal. Yes, it was exciting. Yes, Jorge planned it and landed it. All of those things, I'm not taking that away, and I hate that I use the term lucky, because it was something that he attempted to do. But let's face it, it's a low percentage move. If we start looking at how many times he lands that out of 10, it's 1 out of 10. And it was that one on that night. So I would have liked to have seen that fight rewound if Ben Askren hadn't lost to Damian Maia, and now Ben Askren is what is he? He's 1-2 in his last 3 fights in the UFC after having gone 27-0-1 and some of these other promotions. So I don't think that Ben Askren right now has earned a rematch with Jorge Masvidal, but at the same time, I don't see the Jorge Masvidal victory as representative of what would happen if those two fighters stepped into the ring. It's not representative.
A thought I was just having was I wouldn't mind seeing right now Diaz versus Askren.
That would be a good fight. I'd watch that.
At 170. Yeah.
I'd watch that. Let's see what happens with that. Hey, we need to do an update on Walt Harris. So while we were gone, Walt Harris had probably one of the greatest fears that a father would have, and that's the taking of his daughter. And I don't know quite if they have found his daughter, but they did arrest a gentleman in relation to the missing daughter.
Yeah, I haven't gotten all the details on it. The last I heard, there was a warrant issued, but after speaking with you, I understand there was an arrest that's taking place.
Right. So let's see here. There is a gentleman who was has been arrested, and this was 8 hours ago. And I'm quoting the Bloody Elbow article. Suspect in missing Ania Blanchard case jailed without bond in Alabama. The guy's name is Ibrahim Yazid. And he was out on bond and waiting trial on kidnapping and attempted murder charges. And then he's been arrested under suspicion of having abducted Walt Harris's stepdaughter, Ania Blanchard. So this is the gentleman that they believe may have done this. But at the same time, I don't see anything that says that his daughter has actually been located, which is heartbreaking. Well.
Yeah.
So, if for those of you who are watching this, let us know if his daughter has been found. But I don't think that I don't think that she's been found.
It's heartbreaking, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't. I'm sorry for the dead air here, but I'm just looking. It's not saying she's been found. When these kidnappings occur, the longer that the person who's kidnapped goes without being found, it just doesn't.
The likelihood of them being found alive lessens quite a bit. I don't know if you know this, but I have a history of law enforcement. I did probation and parole work specifically with sex offenders in the state of Tennessee for almost 10, 12 years. Mm-hmm. And so, this is something that really tugs at my heartstrings. This is something that I was just as passionate about as I am about fighting. So, hearing that and knowing a lot of the things that I know about that population of individuals who's willing to kidnap and or perform other acts upon individuals doesn't end well, I don't think, man. My heart goes out to Walt Harris.
Yeah, so I'm looking at a website, WHNT Channel 19. I'm not quite sure. It's a CBS affiliate, and what they're saying is that the Auburn Police Chief Paul Register says that we do think there's a likelihood someone else is involved in this case, and we hope to bring that person to justice as well. It looks like Ibrahim Yazid is not talking, so he is in custody, but he's not speaking to police or providing them with any leads as to where Walt Harris's daughter may be. So, my prayers go out to the family. I hope that they find her back alive. This would be a wonderful story to reunite her with her family. Well, not a story that we want to kind of end on. So let's talk about one thing that we're excited about. And one thing that I'm excited about is coming up on December 14th, and that is UFC 245. This is finally we get to see Kamaru Usman get his hands on Colby Chaos Covington.
Man, I'm so doubtful that fight will ever take place for so many reasons.
Wait. Why? Give me some reasons, because I am excited. You know what? Some people circle Christmas on the calendar. I got the 14th circled.
How many times has Kobe been set up or whatever for a fight in the last year and a half that we know of?
I think he's had like the potential for 2 or 3 fights, maybe.
Yeah, we've seen one, and who was that against? Damian Maia, or who did he who was it?
Robbie Lawler.
Robbie Lawler. I just don't see Kobe making that walk to the ring, man. Kind of like Masvidal said about Conor McGregor. And they got him with this smoke. He don't want to do this.
Yeah,
I really don't think.
I hope you're wrong, because I want to see this fight. Like, the build up to it in and of itself is going to be amazing, because you've got Kamaru Usman, who we all understand that this is an act, right? We know that Colby Covington is putting on this persona a la WWE to try to get, play that heel, get people to hate him and all that kind of stuff. But the problem with taking that position is that when you do take that position, what it does is now it sets you up for, if you lose. If you lose, Colby Covington, then what happens is that now the whole world comes down on you, and you have to atone for all those things you've said, all those things you've done, all that fake persona that you've put on, that belt that you've carried for over a year now. All of those things have to be atoned for when you lose. And you're facing off against someone named Kamaru Usman, who let's face it, the dude hadn't seen a loss since he got into the UFC. He's just walking through folks.
He walked through Tyron Woodley.
So I think it's going to be a great fight if it happens. I'll give you that, but I'm excited about it, and I hope that it really does happen, because I want to see what happens when 2 wrestlers who don't like each other get into the ring. There's going to be some adrenaline dumping there, and then we're going to see what people are really made of.
I'm more interested in seeing Kobe versus Jorge.
Oh.
That's a better storyline to me. Don't get me wrong. I do like the Kamaru thing has been building, but the Kobe Jorge line is a much better thread. I also want to see that Jorge and Leon
Edwards.
Yep, that one's still in the wind. So there are just several fights in the wind at 170 that are a little bit more appealing to me. Hell, the Ben Askren and Nate Diaz fight is more appealing to me than Kobe and Kamaru.
I disagree. This is one of those. What I love about Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington is that these guys go way back. They know each other back through the college wrestling days, back when nobody was on camera, nobody was making any money. People were just surviving wrestling. That's what I like about it, is that these guys have the stories. These guys know what was said in the dark back in the dorm rooms when nobody else was there, when they were nobodies. That's what I like, because now it's like when we start the promo talk, when we start building up this fight, those are the things that are going to come out. These things are personal now. And with it being a fight where these guys don't like each other, they don't get along, they know things about each other that get under their skin, that's where you see when a fighter is going to be able to rise above and become that champion, or whether or not they're going to crumble underneath the mental attacks as well as the physical attacks that are going to come from someone who knows you so well.
I think it'll be a good fight if it ever takes place. Like I said, I have no confidence that Kobe is going to show up.
But even if it's not a good fight, and even if it doesn't happen,
I like the change in the tone of your voice.
You also got Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski fighting for the 145 title on the same card. You also got Amanda Nunes fighting Jermaine Durandamy for the 135 women's title on the same card. You got Marlon Moraes fighting Jose Aldo in his first 135 fight on that same card. And the return, not the return technically, but the return of the California Kid fighting Peter Yan, one of the best up-and-coming fighters at bantamweight at 135, fighting Uriah Faber on the same card. This is how you put a show together to blow out 2019. This is going to be a great card. That is why it is circled on my calendar. That is why I am counting the days like it's Christmas for 245.
Man, the UFC has been putting on some great cards
Yes,
lately.
they have. 2019 has been a great year.
It has. It really has. And I'm excited for 2020 coming up. I know bigger and better things are on their way. This bubble is not about to pop anytime soon. I don't think, man.
All right. Well, hey, I think we can wrap it up here.
Well, no, I got a couple more questions.
Oh,
for
wait.
you.
Okay, come on, bring it.
Have you seen the footage of Darren Till training Tyson Fury?
I have seen the screen capture, but I have not watched the footage yet. People say that Tyson Fury could be real.
Well, there's a lot of hype talking about him and Francis Ngannou fighting each other.
I would like to see that, but can
really
either one of them wrestle? Can any one of them wrestle?
It will be a boxing match in the cage. And I don't know how much boxing will take place because Tyson Fury will outbox him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tyson Fury's outboxing people like Deontay Wilder and folks like that. Like Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. I don't think Francis understands like what head movement really looks like at heavyweight because heavyweights in the UFC don't move their head like. I mean, this is Tyson Fury. I love to watch Tyson Fury fight because this is him the whole time. Like,
yeah, duck and dodge. So there's also footage of Francis meeting up with Mike Tyson and Mike, showing him a couple of little moves.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, Mike has agreed to train Francis.
Yeah, I don't know how. Okay, some people can do and some people can coach. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And some people can do both. I think Mike Tyson can do, but like, do we know anybody he's actually coached? Because what you got to do is you got to put your hands like this, and then you got to come around like this real fast, like this, and then what I'm gonna do, you got to be ecstatic when you throw your punches, like boom, boom, and then you got to eat his daughter. You got to eat his kids and bite his ears. Like that's if it all fails, that's what you got to do.
You are not giving the great Mike Tyson enough credit. Mike is a very intelligent man. Mike is a student of the fight game, an actual student. Mike will break down any fight. I think Mike will make a phenomenal coach if he decides to jump into that arena. And I don't know, man. But the other thing I've learned about being a coach myself, sometimes it's really up on the student, man. I can avail you of all the knowledge, all the things that can make you a great fighter. And if your heart isn't in it, or if there's just some technical piece of you that isn't, on the right page, everything that I'm giving you isn't going to do anything. And I can take that same knowledge and wisdom and give it to somebody else of a lesser or of a mediocre fight career or whatever. But that person has that in them that want to learn, and they will do better than this person who's so talented.
Yeah, so, and I believe that Francis Ngannou is a person who really wants to learn, and can be taught. I mean, but these are all unknowns. Like that's why I'm poking fun at it, is because what is that? What does Mike Tyson look like as a coach? What does that mean whenever you're trying to get someone who is trained as an MMA fighter to do boxing? You've got someone who started off as a youngster who came up into the boxing ranks like Mike Tyson versus someone who is trying to pick it up in his I think Francis Ngannou's in his 30s. Like,
right. And he's only been training for 4 years.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things going on here when you're looking at the Tyson Fury fight, where Tyson Fury is legitimately one of the greatest heavyweights that we have in today fighting. With him, Anthony Joshua, you got Andy Ruiz Jr. and Deontay Wilder. Like those are classical heavyweight boxers, and when you put them up against someone who's only been training for 4 years, Francis better make use of those mixed martial arts and not just try to make it a boxing match, because he's gonna get whooped. Power be damned.
So Stipe allegedly has stepped in and says he's eyeing the Tyson Fury fight. So he's trying to steal that fight from Francis.
Well, I think that'd be a better fight because, personally, I think that when it comes to boxing, Stipe Miocic is probably a little more technical than Francis Ngannou. But still, like, how technical is Stipe to be able to stand in the ring with someone like Tyson Fury? Like,
real boxers as opposed to MMA boxing is just so different, man. There's no comparison. We saw that with McGregor and Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
There's just such a huge skill gap between the two that is not going to be overcome in the 3 or 4 years that someone's training, as opposed to someone in boxing who's been training all their life for boxing.
Mm-hmm.
It is a big difference.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see that fight. I would love to, I hope they make it. I doubt that they will. Dana White really doesn't want to introduce, these guys into the mix in the UFC because I think that someone like a Tyson Fury, I mean, he comes in there for kind of an exhibition and he fights Francis Ngannou and maybe he wins. But if it's an actually true MMA fight where he gets on the ladder, whatever the ladder actually means today, I think what happens is that you start figuring out pretty quick that Tyson Fury doesn't know how to defend a takedown. Tyson Fury has zero Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And so a fighter who's going to be more of a wrestler, your Curtis Blades or, someone like that makes quick work of someone like Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I it's great for a one-off, maybe we can make a crossover championship belt like the BMF belt and have Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury fight for it. Or maybe we could have something. I
like how you put your head on the Bible as you're saying this because I know how you feel about those kind of belts.
Yeah.
So speaking of those kind of belts, Dana White did make a statement in regard to Tyson Fury training with Darren Till and says, hey, I really don't want to see him in MMA, but Zuffa has a boxing promotion as well, so maybe that's something we could look at doing.
Yeah, but I thought Zuffa was buying out Premier.
I'm not familiar with that.
So Premier, PBC, right? Premier Championship Boxing. I thought that's what they were doing was they were going to end up buying PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, which actually has like all the, it has Deontay Wilder, has Andy Ruiz Jr. That's the promotion that has a lot of these fighters. I don't know that the sale has gone through. It hasn't been announced for sure, but I want to say that Tyson Fury is already in PBC, and if Zuffa were to buy PBC, I think some of the contracts and rights to Tyson Fury would come along with it.
Okay, it's interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that.
So yeah, I think it's an interesting fight, but definitely Deontay Wilder is one of the fighters there. I thought that Tyson Fury. I'm actually looking it up right now. I thought Tyson Fury was also one. No, Tyson Fury is not one.
Okay. So I know we were trying to wrap up the show, but I just want to put a few things out there for our next show that I want to go back and revisit from the live show. You know where I'm going with this.
I'm taking notes right now.
Diaz, USADA, round 2. So I want to go back and revisit. We had this conversation about Sean O'Malley being a fighter who tested positive for Ostarine, and then since then has pulsed on occasion or two. Right. And we were trying to, get more details or find the actual facts of his. So I want to go back and revisit that when we have when both of us have time to study it and speak intelligently about it.
Okay.
But what I really want to talk about is, is USADA playing favorites?
Okay.
All
right. Well, you're on the run sheet. We'll start pulling that together. hey folks, this is what Combat Sports Talk is going to look like from now on. And we've also got our phones. We're going to start producing our on the spot content reactions to things that are going on, and you're going to see a lot more of these faces. And so I hope you like it. I hope this is something that you're going to tune into, you're going to tell your friends about, and you'll get excited about Combat Sports Talk coming back at you every week. This is it. This is the way we're going to do it. So
absolutely. Yeah, Ryan, I think I sent you some footage of me holding pads or something. I didn't see that anywhere on Combat Sports Talk. I tag us in everything I put up. I hope you know that. All
right. Hey, do you want to talk about your Instagram? You want to let people know what your Instagram is?
Actually, what I want to talk about was an upcoming live event for us, December 7th.
December 7th.
Dominion Fight Academy, Dominion Fight Championship is putting on another qualifier series. It's an exhibition, exhibition matches throughout the night. Mm-hmm. We will be there live broadcasting, and yours truly will be one of the referees that night, ladies and gentlemen. So be on the lookout for that.
All right, absolutely.
Also, I got a couple of fighters on some cards coming up. XKO is having a black tie brawl here on December 4th. Mm-hmm. We got one fighter on that card at least. And then we're having the all-in XKO match starting out the new year, January 10th. One of my pro fighters, Jeremy Hit'em Holloway, is going to be on that card fighting against another local talented fighter, Von Govia, both here out of Dallas. So be on the lookout for that, folks. Buy some tickets. Come out and check it out. That will be an exciting Muay Thai fight. I'm going to try to get Combat Sports Talk stationed up in there as well. So that's an event to be on the lookout for.
All right. Well, and that's what we're going to do is we'll start putting that list together of the things that are going on locally within our area. Perhaps people who, if they want us to shout out some of the events that are happening across the state of Texas, or even, in other places around the world, to get some publicity for some of these new fighters who are up and coming, who we may eventually see in Bellator or ONE FC or the UFC. That's the kind of platform we can be for those fighters. So let us know what you want us to talk about. Start interacting with us, because we definitely have an opinion. I think you've seen that, on the show today. So if there's nothing else, follow us on social media. My Instagram is @Combat Sports Talk.
Mine is Geo Stallworth.
All right, you can follow our website at www.combatsportstalk.com. We've got merchandise. We do our live events. We've got all kinds of things kind of going on the website, but that's a nice hub for you to be able to see what we've got going on. We've also are on every podcasting platform, so whatever you like, you can follow. Get some archival conversations that we've talked about with fighters way back, going back to 5 years ago. We've got footage from that. So you follow us on on one of your favorite podcasting platforms. But that's what we're going to do. This is the new Combat Sports Talk. Hope you enjoy it. For George G Money Stallworth, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs. We'll catch you next time.